Hey everybody, and welcome back to Split Couch Games. I'm Scott.
And I'm Ben. Sorry, I bumped my filter, or it just
Yeah,
decided to fall over or something.
some happen. But yeah, this is Couchcast number 46, and Ben is really freaking me out here with his
I'm
stuff.
adjusting my zoom on the camera.
Yeah. Um. Well, yeah. We just got done with PAX weekend,
Yeah, PAX
and
West.
PAX. Okay, yeah, PAX West 2017 to be
I,
specific. I know,
Context,
I
I
know.
think that matters.
Context is important. Um,
Yes.
so we figured we would recap what we saw and what we thought about it and all that. And yeah, so jump right into it. What did you think, Ben? Just overall?
Eh, That overall, it was pretty good.
Mm-hmm.
I enjoyed myself. That is for sure.
Mm-hmm.
There was a very noticeable uh, increase in the number of
Dinosaurs?
uh, no children
Oh yeah, yeah,
that I saw,
yeah.
especially compared to like the last 3-4 years that I've been.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't specifically mean like babies or
Yeah.
toddlers, but just like teenagers and like that type,
There was
like
definitely like some
high
10 year
school and
olds.
below.
Yeah, there was definitely some like 10 year olds walking around and stuff.
Yeah,
So
like and it was for the most part it didn't really bother me.
mm-hmm.
But, and I'm sure this is probably understandably so, it did make things like the Markiplier and Friends panel a little less enjoyable.
Yeah. Ben hates children.
No, it
No, I
has
know.
nothing to do with that as much as it was just like children, being more easily excitable and everything
Yeah, and then
are
like also higher
more
pitched.
prone to, well, not even that. Like
All right.
that's irrelevant. But I mean, because they're more easily excitable and everything, they are more prone to just like randomly cheering for no freaking reason. And that when the entire crowd goes nuts, like Markiplier and everybody obviously have to kind of like stop, let everything simmer back down, and then continue on.
Yeah.
And so that had an impact. That entire panel for me personally was a little. I enjoyed the panel. The panel, well, like, was
Mm-hmm.
great and everything. Like Mark and Wade and Tyler, like they all did wonderful job. There was specifically one person that was near us while we were waiting in line that Marcy and I were both like, we really hope we don't end up sitting near this person, and we actually went like kind of out of our way to try not to sit near them.
Mm-hmm.
And they ended up sitting directly behind us. And
Yay.
I don't know how else to describe this person other than just being like extraordinarily like immature and all over the place. Because like
Okay.
they pretty much had to put their 2 cents in on everything. And like sometimes they were like making fun of Markiplier, other times they were like trying to insert their little quip because they're funny too. And
Yeah.
then like they were doing this like, oh well, this is my experience, and I'm the only one that could be right. And like they had such
Yeah.
a holier than thou outlook on life.
Yeah.
And I was just sitting there thinking like, dude, you're 18, you know nothing. I promise.
Yeah.
But anyways, that was that. But
So the title of this video is "Children Ruin PAX."
can it not be?
Let's see.
I suppose that would be rather clickbaity, so it might gain traction.
It's views, integrity. It's
It's
inversely
anyways.
proportional. um, anyway, yeah. So you were there for all 4 days.
Yes, I was.
I ended up not being able to get tickets for the 2 days, the Saturday and Sunday. and I wasn't planning on going until Sunday morning when I got a text from a friend that he had an extra ticket, and so I actually got to go on Sunday. And then the ticket that I did have for Monday kind of went to waste a little bit because I did a ton of walking on Sunday, and Ben knows the feels, but our legs both suck. Like his knees in particular, and like my entire like upper thigh area, like from knee to hip, sucks.
Yeah.
So
Like I'm sitting here with an ice pack on my knee because it's swollen from all the walking and standing.
yeah. So I only went for, and I just developed a headache at about noon, so I just called it quits at like 1:00, 1:30. Just headed home.
Yeah.
But I think I pretty much like saw all that I needed to see. I was like, I think overall, like I was a little underwhelmed by what was being shown. Nothing like there wasn't a whole lot that really excited me, and
I I can agree for the most part.
yeah, I don't think like I think I want to preface this where there was nothing that jumped out at me and my interest in games. Like I know that there was a big Shadow of War showing, and even like I don't know if they were the head sponsor of the event, the Monster Hunter game, but that they were the ones that sponsored the lanyards this year.
Oh yeah.
Like that also like is not really my style of game. They had a huge booth.
Yeah, and I think part of it is because a lot of the studios have resigned themselves to either showing multiple games, it like all in one section. So instead of like having, you know, like a booth dedicated to Assassin's Creed and one dedicated to, you know, like Elder Scrolls and another one dedicated to Fallout, and you know, here's Mario or something.
Yeah.
You now have like these small clusters where instead of like you have 10, 15 booths all showing the same game, you only have like 5, 6 like groups of like 3 to 6 stations for each game, and they're showing like 6 or 7 games all at the same time.
Yeah. Like I don't know if it's because I wasn't with you this time, and the friend that I went with, it was his first PAX. But I felt like it was less. The layout was less natural. Like it just didn't like flow quite as well as last one. And it might be because of that clustering that they chose to do. Like I know Bethesda's booth was. I had no idea how to navigate that because they had like a diner, which was kind of cool.
Well, yeah. Part of it's because a lot of the displays this year were a little more open. Like there was, you know, this massive display for Shadow of War, but like all it was like you can climb on the back of this drake or wyvern or whatever, you know, it is, and pose for a picture, and that was taking up a giant slot on the floor.
Yeah.
And you know, like the Twitch booth, like it was like this massive thing, and then there was like a path where you could kind of like walk down through the middle of it, but then like you I don't know.
Yeah, the Twitch booth was really like they had like the place where they had their like basically their hangout, and then across the way was like the actual like Twitch broadcast booth. And I don't it just
no, I mean overall I really enjoyed PAX, but the layout this year and what was being shown was rather lackluster.
Yeah, and I think like we talked about it last year on our recap, and like you kind of noticed that there was like there's been less emphasis over the years on showing off new games. Like they're still there, but it's like less important for people. I think you mentioned that at some point.
Yeah, and I mean, what it is like I said, it kind of boils down to like that more generalization. You know, because I mean, like Bethesda's booth, like the very first year I went there, I think it was maybe like, I think they had Skyrim and Dishonored or something. I can't. It was like Dishonored and something else, like the first Dishonored, because that was like their new thing. But it was only like 2 games. That's it. And
Yeah.
now you have ESO, you have Dishonored, you have The Evil Within, you have Wolfenstein, and then you have like your general like Fallout Skyrim area,
Yeah.
and then they had like
The
this
Skyrim
giant
VR.
yeah, they had like the giant section that was like 15, 20 different VR booths that were like Skyrim, Doom, and Fallout VR.
Oh yeah.
And it like the fact that like Bethesda was like this massive section, but like it was like 30 different things meant there were like 30 different lines that were maybe about the 10th of the length that they should have been.
Yeah, and they, like, I noticed that they did this thing where, like, they had, like, a punch card almost, where it's like, oh, you can go, and if you play, you know, three different games, I think there were 10 games, actually. Like, there were 10 things that you could do. If you did 3 of them, you get a punch card, or you get a punch, and then you can, like, spin the wheel for a prize. Or, I forget the exact numbers, but it was kind of that thing, and then, like, once you got to 10, you got, like, an extra one, or whatever.
Yeah. But I mean, the thing about that is that with a third of what they had on show, like if you did any of the VR stuff, that was pretty much an all-day commitment.
Yeah, like that was the part
Because-
that kind of made me laugh. I was like, am I really going to spend it all day at the Bethesda booth? Like,
Yeah, well,
I know some
and
people would.
I just mean for one. Like, if you wanted to experience one game in VR, it was an all-day commitment because it was that entire line just to get into the VR experience. And I'm assuming you would pick which game you went to. 5-hour wait.
Really?
Yeah.
Because when I walked by, there was, I mean, I guess it could potentially be a 5-hour wait still, but like there was only like 30 people in line or something like that.
I don't know. I mean, the
Maybe they
couple
they
times,
capped it. I don't know.
yeah, the couple times that we walked by, there was a sign up that basically said, you know, if you get in line now, it's going to be a 5-hour wait time. And I was like, that is
Yeah,
absurd
I mean,
to me.
when I walked by, there wasn't a sign. Like I guess like you saw it. So there was the section where you the entrances were. It went out around that corner and then like halfway down that wall. So
okay,
it wasn't.
yeah.
It wasn't very
You
long.
must,
Yeah.
yeah, you must have caught it when it was a little bit shorter, but not a whole lot because that sounds close to what we were seeing it at.
Okay. Well, it seems like they should have like sped up the demos a little bit.
Well, and that's one thing that I think was causing a lot of problem because like the line management, especially for Friday and Saturday, it seemed to get better on Sunday and Monday, but I don't know if that was just pure coincidence. But on Friday, Saturday, at the least, the line management by the enforcers was absolutely terrible.
Yeah, I can see that.
Like, we were trying to get into the Nintendo booth, and like we saw the line shrink, so we were thinking like, oh, you know, we can get in line now. But when we tried to get in line, they turned us away and said, no, you know, the line's capped right now. Even though there was clear, like visibly looking at the lines, there was enough room for like 15, 20 people. And we're like, okay, when is it going to open up? Because we were thinking maybe there was like some, like they had to take a break or something, you know. And they're like, you know, we don't know when it's going to open up. So Marcy and I, you know, we walk away and then go around the corner, and then we like turn back around to head the other direction and look, and they reopened the line and it was already full again.
Oops.
So like, and,
They didn't
you know,
want
we
your
went
kind, okay? You
well, I
weren't-
mean, we went over and asked, and we were like, you just told us that this was closed. And they're like, sorry, the line just opens at random moments. And I'm like,
What? What does that
doesn't
mean?
yeah, I was like, that doesn't make any fucking sense. Like, what do you mean the line opens at random moments? And they're like, we're sorry. And I'm like, no, you aren't. Like,
I
we
feel
were
like
literally right here, like, 30 seconds ago, and said, is this open or no? And you told us no. And then we turn around, and you let it fill up with people?
I feel like you were in the episode of SpongeBob, the rock bottom episode.
With the fucking or the bus?
Yeah.
Yeah. That's pretty much exactly what it felt like. So, yeah, I mean, that
It opens
was...
up at random times. That's
Yeah, it was a bunch of bullshit. And then... I mean, like I said, you know, it ended up getting better later. Like between yesterday, or between Sunday and Monday, we were able to get in line and we played PUBG on Xbox One,
Ooh, I
quote
wanna.
unquote.
Yeah.
I'll get into that in a little bit, but we played that and we played Assassin's Creed Origins and Middle Earth: Shadow of War.
Okay. So really quick, thoughts on Assassin's Creed Origins?
Well, I have stories for all three of them, so I'm just going to start with PUBG.
Well, I have a story about H1Z1. Well, not so much a story, but like, yeah. Anyway, so I'm gonna interrupt you after the PUBG then.
Okay, sounds good. Okay, so PUBG, it was very clearly the PC version of the game, just with a controller hooked up to it. And I say that because the consoles did not have an HDMI cord plugged into them at all. And also, in the lower right corner of one of the screens, there was a notification telling you to activate Windows. So
Windows coming to Xbox One confirmed.
they were very clearly trying to give the presence of playing it on the Xbox One X, but that is not the experience that we are being given. Whether it's because the build wasn't ready or whatever, I don't really care. But so I played the PC version of the game on live servers, as far as I could tell, with a controller, and the game was not optimized for controller use whatsoever. Like,
Yeah.
the slight twitch of like the thumbstick would seriously send me flying in terms of like aiming and everything. Like, I would just like do a light tap and I would end up moving so far that I would miss my target.
Yeah, I would imagine that that's probably something that like someone said at some point earlier in the day. Like
Yeah, and that's what I was gonna say. Is like it could be that, but it was also just like a general feel. Like, even my input on the movement thumbstick felt very computery. Like, it felt like I was using WASD. Like, it was very analog. So it was fun, I guess. But it's not clearly not built to be utilized with a controller yet. So
yeah, for sure. No, I can definitely see that. I actually, for the first time in my life, I actually played H1Z1.
yeah,
So they had a big booth and probably 40 computers, and people just like went in, swapped out, and like launched into a live game. And so when H1Z1 first came out, and when it was the like DayZ ripoff, like straight up, it was just like launch in, run around the world, zombies and everything. I was super excited about it because I imagined that it was going to be DayZ, but it worked properly. And then they did and it was also going to be free to play when it launched. Then they decided that that wasn't going to be the thing. So I played it, and and like a lot of people are like, oh, like, you know, why did PUBG happen to take off and H1Z1 didn't? Like, H1Z1 is still a successful game, don't get me wrong, but it's not PUBG successful, and 7 million copies in like 6 months or whatever.
Yeah, something crazy.
And honestly, the reason is that PUBG is a better game. Like, I remember the first time I played PUBG, and I was absolute trash. And but like everything that like I did in that game made sense, as opposed
Sure.
to like in H1Z1. I feel like there's some invisible like learning curve that like you have to spend more games than you should to figure out what that invisible thing is, and then you can start getting good at the game.
Yeah, yeah.
And I don't know. There was just a few things that like I can just see that, and like I felt like I'm glad that I played it because I was curious about that myself. I was like, well, this is basically the same game, but one is superior than to the other, in my opinion.
Yeah. Sure.
All right, hit me with this Assassin's Creed origin story. This
I'm gonna make this. I'm gonna make this as short as I possibly can. Anybody that has been following our content for any amount of time, it knows that you and I can talk about Assassin's Creed for hours on end, because it's like the one place where our gaming interests overlap.
Yeah.
So to start off, they've been pitching this as something that takes place in ancient Egypt. Which is true, but it's not at the same time, because historically speaking, or factually speaking rather, there is like a sort of a gray area as to where the ancient Egypt time period ends.
Okay. Yeah.
And it's basically a course of about like 250, 300 years between when Alexander the Great died and when the Egyptian Empire was basically absolved into the Greater Roman Empire. And that window of time is when this game takes place.
Okay.
Which I was not expecting. Because, like, when you say ancient Egypt, I'm thinking, like, Bronze Era.
Yeah.
So, like, wooden shields with, maybe some, like, animal hide stretched over them, like, bronze-tipped spears, that kind of thing. But in reality, this is, like, 2,500 years later than what I was thinking.
Yeah.
So there's iron weapons, there are boats with sails, all this kind of stuff. And it kind of threw me for a loop when I first started. But that being said, the build that I was on, the build of the game, was labeled as an alpha. Whether or not that's accurate, who knows? The game does come out next month, so...
Yay!
And this is where, like I said, I'm going to try and keep it as short as I possibly can. The one story mission that you're given was basically a fetch quest. Like, you go, you find a priest, you talk to him, because he's, like, beating some kid, and the kid's like, I didn't steal the things, the boat crashed and sunk, and I almost died, and the treasure is at the bottom of the ocean. So you go, you find the treasure, you bring it back, and the priest goes like, this kid is basically an idiot, so he's got a whole lot of more punishment coming anyways. And then, I don't know if it was required or not, but I basically said, you're a fucking dick, and shot him in the face with an arrow. And then,
All right, yeah.
like, set the kid free, basically.
And then that kid grew up to be your greatest arch nemesis. He became the founder of the Templars.
Yeah. But so, you do that, and then, like, I guess it's, like, kind of free roam from there. And... I pretty much, like, I went into, I guess you can call it, like, the equivalent of, like, a stronghold. There was, like, a captain and some other, like, high-ranking guy that I needed to kill and a couple treasure chests to loot, and that was, like, those were the things that were labeled as completable for that area, and it was, like, 3 boats. And I went in, I did my thing. The AI was dumber than what I've ever seen it.
Dumber than Assassin's Creed? Wow.
Yeah. So, like, I stealth kill, like, 3 guys on the boat. And by stealth kill, I really mean, like, I walk up to him, I assassinate the first guy, like, straight in the face. Like, no hiding it or anything. I didn't sneak up. I literally climbed a ladder, turned to my right, stabbed him in the face.
Well, I mean,
and then,
no one can really be prepared for someone climbing up a ladder, right?
Right. And so then, I go to the other end, and then I actually like sneak up, quote unquote, on a couple other guys, take them out, and then I like climb up to the crow's nest where there's like a brazier basically that's like filled with fire up in the crow's nest of a ship for some reason. And I see the captain like kind of patrolling the boat, just like, hey, dead bodies, not reacting to those at all. And
they're not his.
so I'm like, okay, I'm gonna shoot him with my bow. I just want to see if it's possible to like one shot kill a high level guy, right? So I pull out my bow and I'm like strafing to kind of like get a good angle on him, and I catch my arrow on fire with the brazier, and I'm like, oh, that's kind of cool.
Exciting.
So I shoot him, hits him in the face, and catches him on fire. He doesn't die, which I kind of expected. But he is screaming bloody murder. Like,
as you would.
You could probably hear this guy from like 3 blocks away. And no one else on the boat gave a single fuck.
Well, they didn't like him anyway, Ben.
There were like 3 or 4 other guys on the boat that just didn't care. So I just jumped down there and assassinated him. And then went on my merry little way.
Yeah.
But like that, and they completely changed the control scheme. Like, right bumper is now attack. And
Why?
right trigger is like heavy attack. Left trigger is to pull out your bow, and left bumper is to put up your shield if you have one.
Okay.
And so the controls weren't really intuitive. I can imagine getting used to them, so I don't want to like pass any sort of judgment on that part.
Yeah.
But anyways, so, I play the game, and demo's over, and the guy that was kind of like one of the people manning the demo, he's like, so how'd you guys like it? And, I was like, it was okay, pretty good. Because I don't want to sit there and, like shit all over this game when, first of all, it's an alpha build. Second of all, I literally only played like 15 minutes of it.
And like, just to be super clear, it was an alpha build. Like, this is not like judgment of the final product. Like,
yeah, and again, like I only played like one mission and then like maybe 5-10 minutes of free roam.
Yeah.
And so, like when I gave that feedback, he was like, it sounds like you didn't think it was the greatest. Like, do you want to be more specific? And I was like,
do you want me to be more specific?
That's what I was thinking. And I was like, well, to be perfectly honest, like, having played this small amount, like, it is an alpha, I have only played a very short amount of it. It honestly feels and looks like there was more time spent into making the game look good rather than being functional. And he just kind of got like this super serious look on his face and like nodded a bit, and he's like, that's really good feedback. And I'm like, I feel like I just kind of like ruined his day.
Little did you know he was the head of the team.
But I mean, like, the game does look very beautiful.
Sure.
There were some frame rate issues, but again, alpha build, so but I mean, like, outside of that, the game looked beautiful. The animations weren't all that fantastic, and I felt like
never had fantastic animations.
Yeah, and I felt like the voice acting was, but whatever. I mean, like, these are all things that could potentially change.
Yeah.
Depending on whether or not it's a true alpha build, right? Because if it's an alpha build, then chances are it's like 6 months old. So,
yeah.
But so I don't know. I felt a little bad after having said that. Like, it felt like he valued that, but at the same time, it's like I kicked his child or something. Like, he just looked not super pleased with me having said that. So.
Yeah, I mean, well, he asked for it. Like,
yeah.
I mean, you could maybe have like maybe stated it like a little nicer. You could have been like, "Hey, I mean, like the game looks really great, and I feel like the previous games had more intuitive controls, or something like that.
Yeah.
Like, it's probably like there's probably like a nicer way to put it, like a little less blunt.
Probably, but I mean,
but I mean, you
if
know, you put on the
uh,
spot, like
yeah,
you're
and I
tired.
mean, exactly. You know, I was tired, put on the spot, and like there were people behind me waiting to get out. So,
Yeah,
but yeah, so that was that.
and little like,
Um,
and now every time someone left, he was gonna be like, so beautiful but not functional. Yeah,
is that accurate?
I've heard that.
But yeah, so that was that. And the other game that we played was Shadow of War.
Hmm.
Now, I do want to say that I attended a panel for Shadow of War specifically.
Hmm.
That was actually kind of entertaining. They showed off some concept art and were talking about some of the development process and some of the characters and that kind of thing. Like they had the voice actor for Italian, I think, and why can't I remember his name? The ghost guy. Whatever.
The
Anyways,
ghost guy.
basically the two main characters. Because you never played the first one, right?
No.
TLDR of like the first like 20 minutes of the game, maybe.
Mm-hmm.
You basically live through the process of your family getting, or you and your family getting killed by a bunch of orcs, but then like your soul gets basically intertwined with this other guy's soul, and he is the one who forged the rings and all that kind of stuff. So like basically you are the same person, and it is the
All right.
lore reason for why when you die you respawn.
Okay.
But so like those two guys and a couple of the game directors were like on the panel and everything. Like I said, it was a really interesting panel, learned some stuff. But the thing that relates to a previous podcast, someone actually asked, about the big elephant in the room with the microtransactions and how the game is balanced. And it wasn't me. I want to make that clear. I didn't want to do that because I was like, I don't want to put him on the spot. But someone else
if he
did.
wasn't prepared for that, then he deserves just.
Well, sure. But one of the game directors basically flat out said that the entire game is designed so that you can still have a great fun experience even if you're not connected to the internet.
Okay.
And that personally makes me feel better.
Mm-hmm.
But it still doesn't completely like fix the issue.
Yeah.
Like for me personally, like yeah, it pretty much solves the problem because I'm probably not going to play like the multiplayer aspect of it regardless. But it still doesn't fix the fact that like the multiplayer aspect is effectively a pay-to-win style of microtransaction.
Yeah. And I don't want to
But
like rehash that, but
yeah,
that's kind of what I figured is like would be the case. Like, I mean, I think that like servers are expensive, and like you gotta find a way to pay for them. So that's where microtransactions come in. I think for multiplayer games. But yeah, I mean that's pretty much
Yeah.
what I would expect them to answer that question. Like,
yeah,
I think like this single player experience is going to be just fine. You're not going to have to pay a dime to experience it all.
yeah.
It's that how they handle the switching back and forth
Yeah.
between PvP and that.
But anyways, so the story around me playing that, we're in line, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I noticed that there are some T-shirts on the ground, like next to one of the booths, and then it was me or like someone behind me or something, I can't remember, but somebody asked, like, hey, like, do we get a T-shirt for playing? And they said, no, you only get a T-shirt if you crash the game. And then one of the other staff there, kind of interjects and says, or if you complete a mission. And then they go like on this long diatribe about how like the biggest criticism they got from the first game was that it's too easy, and so
Okay.
they focused really hard on making this one harder, and and they were like, the people behind us were like, oh, so if we beat any mission because there were several available that you could choose from. If we beat any mission within that 20-minute timer, we'll get a t-shirt. And they're like, yeah, we think that's a t-shirt worthy thing, because, there had only been like 6 people all weekend long who had beaten a mission, right?
Okay.
And so I'm sitting there like, okay, fucking, challenge accepted. So I get in, I start playing. The game is like exactly the fucking same in terms of difficulty.
Okay.
Like, you can pretty much like stealth your way around everything. And I beat the story mission that was available. And so, like, I kind of like take one ear off out of the headset, and I turn to the guy standing next to me, and I'm like, so does this, I'm pointing at like the mission complete screen. I'm like, does this mean I get a t-shirt? And like, he was already like having a very like, oh my fucking god, like this guy's kicking our game's ass, like body language. And he's like, no, you only get that if you, crash the game. And I'm like, but you guys said, and he's like, only if you crash the game. I'm like, all right, fine.
Did you crash the game?
No, I didn't. But
should call me over. I crash all the games.
But I mean, so I left without a t-shirt and everything, but I just thought that was like super shitty, because like, it's like you'll because like they were talking it up. They were like, it's basically impossible. Like nobody's been able to beat even the story mission. And I just go in, I fucking like stealth kill half the people. I dominate one on accident. But then a cinematic triggers, but the guy I just dominated starts fucking wreaking havoc. So then by the time the cinematic is done, everything is on fire. The boss is half dead.
Wow.
And like, so I just like finish killing the boss and then proceed on to the next part of the story mission. And I like, by the time I finish the mission, I still have like 5 or 6 minutes left in my demo playtime. And I just kind of go about doing, like, whatever the hell I wanted. But I didn't get a freaking t-shirt, because I guess I proved to them that the game still isn't all that hard if you play it the way it's intended to be played.
What? Intended play design? Come on, Ben.
Nobody does that.
No. Please.
But yeah. So those are my stories.
Yeah, that's fair. Yeah, I mean, like I said, I didn't get a chance to play a whole lot. I got to check out a few indie games. There were 3 that stood out to me. Nidhogg 2. I don't know if you ever played the first one.
Nope.
Do you know what it is? Nidhogg.
I've heard of it. I don't really know what it is, though.
It's basically like, it's sort of it's almost a competitive platformer, but it's not. It's a competitive 2D side-scrolling thing where you start on a screen and you have a sword and it's like stick figures fighting, and then whoever wins gets the screen going in their direction. They can run off to the side that their goal side, and then another screen fight.
Oh
then,
yeah. I've seen that. Yeah.
Nidhogg 2, I think, is solid successor. Nothing. I don't think it was like, it didn't really do anything super groundbreaking. I only saw it for like 5 minutes, so I don't know if there's more like different game modes or whatever. Basically, they upped the art a little bit and added some new weapons that, like, when you die you'll spawn with randomly. So like, there's a bow and arrow, there's a short sword, long sword. I forget what else. Yeah, and I think there's more different levels and different types of levels and everything.
Gotcha.
So it'll be a good, arcade game, like $10 Steam party game or whatever.
Nice.
And then there's a golf game, and I don't remember the name of it.
Was it Party Golf?
Yes, it was Party Golf.
Yeah.
That's exactly what it was.
I walked by that today, and I was like, I think that must be the one Scott was talking about.
Did you get a chance to play it?
No.
I think like that was so much fun. Me and my friend ended up playing against 2 other people, and it got intense. Like,
nice.
It was like really awesome, like, organic experience. Like, 2 people, like, we've never played the game or anything, and we were just like trying to figure it out.
Yeah.
Like, one of them, like, we were playing timed as opposed to shots, and like, you can change how you score it and everything. Like, there's even like a scoring option to be like, if you get first place, you get like a good score, but then if you get second place, you get negative score, and so it becomes once one person scores, there's a 10-second countdown for everyone else's score, or get as close to the goal as possible. But in that way, it's get as far away from the goal as you can.
Interesting.
Yeah. So like there was something like 300 different modifiers that you could put on, and like most of the modifiers could be put on per player and everything. So like there's just so many options. And just a lot of fun. There was one where like fun. I shot the ball from across the thing, from like across the map. It bounced a bunch, and then like it ended up like coming in right in front of my friend, like who was like doing it really methodically, and I'm like, oh,
nice.
That was super awesome.
Nice.
And then the other one that kind of caught my interest was it's Inverses. I feel like I may have saw that last year too, but it's basically like it's two blocks, or you can have 2v2, probably 4v4 as well, or free for all. And there's two different colors, and you can move on your color, and you can shoot across the other color. And when you shoot across, it turns it into your color, and then you're trying to hit the other people. And it's just on a grid system, and you can charge up shots and everything. I think it probably lacks the depth to be like worth purchasing, but like I can see it being a Steam sale purchase that you pull out and play with your friend every once in a while. Kind of like Blade Ballet was for us. Nice. Just like kind of short, easy to learn, and but the ease of which you can jump into it, and like the sandbox that you have like can lead to some interesting strategies and everything, because you can block people in, and then super awesome.
Yeah, well, that's cool.
Yeah.
The last things that I want to say,
because we're coming up on past 40 minutes here.
Yeah. Are basically some of the highlights, which are that I got to meet a couple different YouTubers that I enjoy watching their content, including MS Arcade. I got to meet Ethan from Crank Gameplays, and he does stuff with Markiplier every now and then, so that was cool. And we also got to sit in on a panel, and Marcy took a picture with Shirley Curry, also known as Gamer Grandma. She's like the 82-year-old that does Skyrim gameplays. And she has like 200 some odd thousand subscribers, I think. So
I mean,
that was really cool. Like I loved sitting in on her panel and just listening to her because she's so freaking adorable. I love it.
My highlight was I ended up speaking to Ryan Haywood from Achievement Hunter outside of like he was just there. It was like after the actual PAX, so like that was super awesome. Just kind of ran into him, and like I spoke to him for like it was me and a couple other fans. Like we just kind of like trapped him, not really, but like
nice.
We even gave him an out a few times. We're like, hey, if you have somewhere to be or whatever. Like we just had a good solid like 20-minute conversation, just hanging out. Yeah,
nice.
Like he's a super nice guy. He's definitely socially awkward, so he fit in with us, and it was great.
Yeah, I was actually genuinely surprised by my interactions with some people, just because like Ethan especially like was just so cool about the fact that like I was talking to him and everything. And I wasn't really expecting that. Oh, I also ran into Jacksepticeye on the street, like leaving the convention. He was like walking the opposite direction. So I just like very slyly kind of like leaned over, and I was like, hey Jack, like as I passed him, and probably creeped him out.
Yeah, no, that like the way that you present that, like the way you presented that here is a lot creepier than the way you told me the story the first time.
Well, yeah.
It
I
sounds
mean,
like you like walked up next to him and like you're like, "Hey, Jack."
no, it wasn't quite like that, but yes. Um, but yeah. Anyways, we're getting a little long with this one, so
Yeah, I
we should
mean,
probably.
you know,
I suppose if anybody really wants to hear us talk more about PAX, then
yeah,
we can do a part 2 next week or something.
yeah.
But,
I mean, let us know.
comments and stuff.
We're yeah. I mean, it was a good time. Looking
Yeah.
forward to next year. Hopefully, I really hope that like there's just more there. Like,
Yeah.
I think because again, I think I probably missed out on some panels on like Friday and Saturday that I probably would have wanted to see, but I just didn't bother checking because I didn't have tickets.
Yeah.
So yeah, so I'm hoping to actually hit some panels up next year, and
Yeah.
yeah, that does it for us. If there's anything that you guys want us to like touch on, like if there's something there that you know was there and like wanted to see if we saw it at all, let us know in the comments and we'll touch on it quickly next episode. Or if you just want us to keep talking, let us know. Yeah.
Yeah.
We'll see you guys
So,
next time. Let's play catch games.
Bye.
Bye.